service account, get the JWTs. But how exactly we do this? Let's go in detail about that. So now we come to our original diagram here, and we are going to just revisit this diagram. So what we had planned is that, you know, so we were planning to have a OAuth tools token server, but very important part here is that uh, there are two ways to get the token to, depending on your grant type. So let's see what exactly, how do you get for the grant types. Mm, Let me go to the shapes and then let's put this box here, grant type. So grant type can be two types, right? Generally, could be your authorization code, code, and it could be also could be as client credentials. Okay. Now you must be asking from where are you getting these details? So generally, when we see the postman, you can see those very clearly. So now you will see that you have what 2.0 here, and then when you go towards your grant type, you can see you have grant type authorization code with PKC, implicit password credentials, client credentials. So it's the authorization code what I was talking about is one of them, and the client credentials is another one. So there are two ways to handle, getting to the OAuth2 tokens. One is through authorization code. So if we get through the authorization code, then there are basic steps we need to follow. Let's go through that. So this is a diagram where using Postman, we are not going to use any client secret or client ID here. The reason being is we are going to use the service account. We're going to get access token for service accounts. Then we are going to generate JWT using service account and return the JWT token. And this particular token is forwarded using forward request with authorization bearer JWT token. And then what we're going to do is we're going to process request and return response. And then we return the student data. This is what we need to observe is a very important thing during authorization code, because authorization means that I'm going to authorize the request what you're asking me for over two tokens. That's what authorization code means. So, which means that, I have to recognize who's the requester. So I recognize this requester using the service account. That means that, first I will give the GWT tokens to you, and then what happens is you will take those tokens and you forward the request of the authorization by putting bearer GWT token, and then you will process request and then return the response. So anyhow, you do have the authorization bearer in GWT token plus client ID and client, secret. So you will recognize. So how is this going to happen? Is that uh, in Google Cloud we are going to create a service account which I showed you. Then we'll have a JSON key file for which I showed you the path now. And then you will have gateway where you have Google token service and service account filter. Now what's going to happen is that service account has a JSON key, which is a private key, and then it is going to go to Google token service and it creates a GWT, and then Google Authorization Server validates your GW and returns the success token. So this is done now. Gateway started with service account. Now get access token, generate GWT, add request authorization to bearer GWT, right? And then you validate the token and then return response. So key advantage here is there is no browser intervention, and then we have free service account, and then we do automatic token refresh. So how does the postman request look here? We do a get. It's HTTP localhost 8080 student equals student Anil, and no authorization header required, no client credentials needed, no browser tokens to extract. Gateway automatically adds service account token. This is the way, you know, we get identification. So let's try this. So now we have the Azul gate, and we have the properties file here. We have a simple service where we have a simple Spring Boot gateway, and then observe that in the properties file, we do not have the client ID and client secret. As I told that, the whole path, we are not using the client ID and client secret here, but it is there in our Google Cloud. And then I explain the process, which is uh, going directly to the service account of the Google. That's why we give the JSON path, which I showed you of how we extracted the service account details. And this is Google scope, and this is the original request URI. This is the path. So everything remains same here, and then we are going to test. Before we test, let's see what all changes we did. We did Zul Gateway application.java, and then in security config, we use very simple JDK 17. We are using enable web flux security, And then in here, we authorize exchanges for anything instead of using token ID because we don't need that. And then debug service account is the one which confirms that your setup of service account works. And then this is the logic where the core logic where we need to make sure that the in the beer the service token account comes. And then the logger dot info. Let's successful injected Google service access token to downstream request. And then what happens is that when we do this, we are able to hit with the get service and get the response. So the core logic is hidden here, which is having Google token service. And Google credentials. Google service account not initialized. Then you get the tokens. So use Google token service in your Zool auth interceptor and get the tokens. So let's hit this and see if we get a response. We're getting a response now. So this is about uh, bypassing the browser intervention when we use grant type as authorized and still make things work. So the next we are going to discuss now is, after this one is that the grant type is the client credentials. But now this is the part one as we discussed. So this is the WAR2 token server, but for grant type authorization code, we can deal in two ways. One was browser intervention and one without browser intervention. So now I'm going to discuss about this one we discussed without browser intervention. Then we're also going to discuss without with browser intervention. With browser intervention. So after you finish this grant type authorization code with and without presentation, we will next discuss how to do with client credentials. This becomes very complex. That's why people avoid using authorization code. They always use client credentials. So for now, I'm going to stop the discussion here. The next part, we're going to discuss the remaining, that is with the browser intervention authorization code and then with client credentials. For now, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and you click on the like button.